I'm captivated. I'm captivated.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Afternoon Social Tea Time with Afternoon Social. I'm Teresa Lauterbach, your host, and we have our special guest again today is Sharon Niemi. She was here with us on Monday, so go back and check out her other video. She's with Your Way Wellness, and she's an Ayurveda practitioner and healthy longevity engineer. We talked to her about her milestone of achieving optimum health through this Ayurveda. And one of the things that she mentioned about was getting through menopause while using this, which would help alleviate some of those menopausal symptoms and make it a better transition for us women at that age. And so I'm going to turn this over to Sharon. Hi, Sharon. How are you today?
Hey, Miss Teresa. Thank you. I'm so glad to be back.
Thank you. And we are, we're going to learn more about it, how we can transition through menopause with Ayurveda today. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say about this.
Thank you. Yeah, so Ayurveda did help me. It got me through transitioning through menopause. And I and 3 other women in the graduating class actually did our dissertation on menopause, and we looked at the Western practice of how to get yourself through this period of time, and then the Eastern Ayurvedic practices. So it's really nice to come back and be able to talk about this today with you. So, menopause in a lot of senses in the Western culture are terrified of hitting menopause. It's almost like they think it's the end of life to so many women that, there it goes, I know, and I used to think of it that way too. But, so according to Ayurveda, we have 3 life stages. The first is childhood, and that's the age of growing. That's considered in Ayurveda a kapha, which is dense and ruled by the earth and the water, denser materials. And if children have a lot of sinus issues, coughs, that is all kapha related. So then there is the second phase is adulthood, which is the age of doing. And that is considered what we would call a Pitta phase of life, very hot and fiery. You're out to conquer the world, you're out to reach all those milestones, you just want to make it. That is considered Pitta in adulthood. The third phase, or the age, is called elderhood, and it is the age of wisdom. And it's the Vata age, and that's where we're really more ether and air and ethereal dominant. And this age is the revered age in Ayurveda. And menopause occurs just like when we go through puberty. It's a transition from one phase of life to the next. So menopause in Ayurveda is considered one thing, the cessation of your menstrual cycle. That's it. Nothing else that people think about menopause, the hot flashes, the cracky joints, the dry skin, I'm going to shrink and I'm going to shrivel up to nothing, is not menopause. Menopause is only the cessation of the menstrual cycle. So it's known as Rajon Vritti. And Raja means menstruation. Vritti is stoppage. And sometimes we put Kala in it, which means over time. So it doesn't happen in one day, right? It's a natural occurrence over a number of years where our gradual decrease in our estrogen and progesterone occur. So it's most common, the metabolic change is in our hormones during that time.
Right.
And in Ayurveda, it disrupts one of layers of our tissues that takes care of your fats, your carbohydrates, and your hormones. So that's why we experience so many of those other things going on, the hot flashes and the depletion of our cycle and so forth, because of that specific layer in the body. So in cultures where, other than Western cultures, menopause is nothing but a year of irregular periods until they stop. And then once they stop, there's a 12-month period without one that you are considered then through menopause. You have to go through a year without a period. Other than that, there should be no other signs. But if the body is already imbalanced by the time you hit menopause, then everything that is imbalanced is going to be exasperated. So you're going from a Pitta, a hot phase of life, to a Vata, to an ether air phase of life. So if you are out of balance with your ether and air, which is what causes, if it's out of balance, you'll have dry skin, cracky joints, anxiousness, fearful thoughts, those sort of things. But if your fire's out of balance, you're going to be moody and angry and outbursts and hot flashes that are crazy. Or if your earth and water are out of balance, you're going to have weight gain, depression, lethargy, not caring about life at all, and oh my God, what am I living for type of thoughts. So those type of balances, as you go through that phase of hormone depletion, are just going to be exacerbated. So if you're balanced going in, menopause can be managed very easily, mild symptoms, through remedies that nourish the dryness, calm the nervous system, and increase your digestion. Those are the three things that are the most important going through to take care of, that will eliminate most of the hot flashes, because you will, even if you're not hot imbalanced going through menopause because of the fluctuations in hormones, you should get some mild warming sensations now and then, but not like I had, where I just opened the refrigerator door and stood there because it was just ripping off of me. So that's imbalance. So if you're pretty well balanced going into menopause, it will be easy. So I wanted to share some of the things that we can do to maintain that, if that's all right.
Yep. Go ahead. All the tips we can get is the best thing in the world.
Best thing you can do.
Yes.
Right, so the first thing to do to keep in mind as you're thinking about the transition is to not make it the end of life. You need to approach menopause mentally correctly first to help ease through the transition. So it's really the time to make peace with your past. And what we tend to do, especially in our adulthood, some in our childhood, but mostly as we become more conscious and aware, we will tend to hold all our stress, all our anger, all our self-guilt, everything in the lower energy centers of our body. So that's why we have a lot of distress and constipation, digestive distress, constipation, really tough menstrual cycles, because we tend to just hold on tightly to all those emotions in that part of our body. So when that happens, the body becomes the mind, and not the mind becoming the king of the body. The body starts controlling the mind. So what you want to do as much as you can, at least a few times a week, is to sit down and try to calm yourself and contract your perineum. So the pelvic floor, contract, hold, tighten your lower abdomen and tighten your upper abdomen and contract them and just hold, and then release. And then calm yourself again. Tighten those three centers, contract, and release. That in itself, you're starting to release those emotions and not have them come on so onslaught of them, especially when you get into menopausal. If you're high fire and you're still holding on to a lot of these things, there could be some crazy outbursts, and those aren't fun. And I've had them. So the best way is to get ahead of them and do those type of contracting and releasing exercises. That's one easy thing to do. As you get into menopause, it's easy. Ayurveda, so let me just step back Ayurveda recommends seasonal cleansing, and only in the fall and the spring. However, when you're going through menopause, Ayurveda recommends for a year, the year that your cycle is starting to either diminish or become irregular. What you want to do is a monthly mini cleanse, because you want to keep the blood purified and the cycle, transition out of the cycle as easy as possible. Mm-hmm. So what's recommended is that you take 2 tablespoonfuls of ghee, which is clarified butter, with 2 tablets of a blood cleansing herb. And in most cases, I recommend Mangista. And I will give you all this information too, so you can have it available to everyone. And take that twice daily for 4 days. And that alleviates a lot of the symptoms that you'll have, especially if you're having a lot of hot flashes. That's going to cool the body. That's going to cool the body down.
That sounds like that would work with inflammation too, because I think that's another thing that comes when we start doing menopause and we start getting into arthritis or other inflammatory conditions that goes along with it. So with that sounds like those herbs and things would help with the inflammation that goes with it as well. Absolutely.
And that's one of the herbs, as well as several others that we'll talk about during the our oiling spa day.
Yes.
Because it's another way to get the herbs and so forth into the body is through the oil. But and ghee is actually recommended oil to put on your skin as well in Ayurveda. So using that with the Mangista will really help cool. And it gets into its transdermal, so it's going to absorb into the skin a lot faster than if you ingest it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good tip right there too, advice that, because one of the things I know I've discovered too, like I said, a lot of women like to take supplements and things, but if your body's not intended to digest all that artificial supplement, it's meant to have food. So doing the oils and having it go through your skin, I think would really help with the digestion issues as well. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And in Ayurveda, it is, it's not you are what you eat, which is part of it, but it's right. You are what you digest. Mm-hmm. You are what you digest. So if you're taking a whole lot of supplements, but the body doesn't recognize them because they're supposed to be an effect out of your transformation of the food, right? Like amino acids is the transformed nutrient out of a protein. But if you take the amino acid and the body, it doesn't have anything to do to transform, right? Because it doesn't use it till it's transformed. So it has to make it through the whole digestive tract, all
Right.
that fire to the intestines for it to be used. So it's supplements are good when you can't get enough of them out of your foods or your herbs, because they're processed. They're processed too. So you need to be
Right.
careful with that.
Right. And that's one thing that we all need to warn ourselves about is all processed foods and whatever. And they don't realize that supplements are processed as well. I think, glad you gave us some great tips and information here today on about getting through menopause with Ayurveda. And I'm excited to have her back tomorrow. She's going to talk to us about how to make our own infused oils. We were just discussing a little bit about how those oils will help with all of these issues in our bodies and our diets. So I thank you again for being here on Woman to Woman Wednesday. And we will see you again tomorrow. And we get to learn more about how to make oils and how those are going to help us in our bodies. So thank you again, Sharon, and we'll see you tomorrow.
I'm captivated. I'm captivated.